Hello, and welcome to Setting the Standard, the podcast about wireless radio standards creation from the Wireless Innovation Forum. I'm your host and Communications Director of the Forum, Stephanie Hamill. In this episode, I'm talking with Andy Clegg of Google and Amit Mukhopadhyay of Nokia about the upcoming webinar on the lower 3 GHz band, the next frontier in spectrum sharing between federal systems and commercial telecoms, on January 30th.
Hi, Andy. Hi, Amit. I'm here with you both today to talk about the webinar we have coming up on January 30th, the lower 3 gigahertz, the next frontier in spectrum sharing between federal systems and commercial telecom. So thanks for meeting with me today to talk about it. So can you both give me an explanation of what's going to happen at the webinar and why you felt it was timely to have it now?
Yeah, so thanks, Stephanie. Thanks for having us here. So Amit and I are going to do a little bit of a deep dive on the US 3 gigahertz band. In the US, the 3 gigahertz band is a little more complicated than it is in the rest of the world. A lot of DoD activity there. As most of you know, the upper part of it's already been redone for Citizens Broadband Radio Service. And then just below that, the 3.45 gigahertz service has been auctioned and deployed. And then there remains about 350 megahertz at the very bottom of the band, where there's been a lot of activity over the last couple of years trying to figure out what to do with that part of the band. It's very heavily used by the DoD, and so we need to protect their assets in the band. But it's also of interest to sort of expand the 3 gigahertz broadband spectrum pipeline and make it easier for us to potentially compete with other countries in the 5G sphere, or expand spectrum sharing into the lower part of the band. So Amit and I have been pretty heavily involved in the various industry and government focused groups that have been looking at whether that band can be shared and under what conditions. So we thought we'd give a little bit of rundown on all the activity that's happening, and if there are any preliminary results that we can share with you, we will. And that's sort of what we're looking at. And Amit, feel free to add your 2 cents.
Of course. So to bring a little more color about the timing itself, there are 2 things that are tying our activities together. First of all, as many of you may know, original PATH's activity, the effort ended back in 23, but PATH's 2 has been initiated as of middle of last year. And we are looking into further investigation, figuring out how to make spectrum sharing possible in the 3.1 to 3.45 gigahertz range between radars and commercial entities. In parallel to that, there is also another effort triggered by the National Spectrum Strategy Implementation Plan, or NSSI plan as we call it. And both of them are actually targeting a demonstration of a prototype that should be available toward the end of this year. So there is a lot of activity around the industry going on, both in the different technology sphere as well as from operational perspective within the DoD agencies, how to make this possible. So our webinar is very much in timing was excellent to bring together the different minds that we can look into, and it will be a great opportunity for us to present what we have on and what we are planning to do in the next few months. That's
Okay. So it sounds like they'll be able to get an idea of what you all are working on. What else do you think that they'll be able to leave the webinar with?
So we believe there are 3 things that we should be able to take away from the webinar.
Okay.
First of all, what are the different types of radars that are active in the 3.1 to 3.45 gigahertz band? Correspondingly, what are the challenges of operating those bands while there may be commercial 5G systems deployed in the same band. So figuring out what the operations conditions are, and secondly, what would be the challenges. And the last part of that discussion, the third piece, would be what are some of the potential solutions that can enable spectrum sharing in that band. It does not have to be an exact solution, but we will not be able to talk about exact solutions, but certainly some directional ideas, some of the thoughts that are going on behind the different inventions that are going on to make it happen. The audience should be able to hear about some of those innovations. Andy, you want to add some?
No, I think that's a good summary, and we there's one thing to note is that in this band, so in the CBRS band, for example, all of the systems that we share with are ground-based, and in particular, most of the systems are shipborne. So we're listening out over the ocean. The difference in this lower 3 gigahertz band is that a lot of the systems that operate there, and they're not all radars, they're mostly radars, but not all radars, but some of these systems are airborne, which is going to make spectrum sharing a little more challenging because they appear over the horizon very quickly, and suddenly you need to protect them. And they also have very long visibility ranges. When you're up at a high altitude in an airplane, your line of sight extends hundreds of kilometers. And so there's a very long sight line that you have to consider for interference. So there's some challenges in this band. And, we'll discuss some of those challenges and what makes this band more unique from a sharing perspective than CBRS or even the 3.45 gigahertz band.
And just to add to what you just said, Andy, there is also the fast time response that we need to implement any interference mitigation technique. After all, naval radars are relatively slow-moving radars, and they have a significant amount of tolerance, several minutes we can think of within which any interference needs to be switched off. But when you're talking about fast-moving aeronautical radars or even mobile radars on the ground, we may need to take action much faster than what we are used to doing in the CBRS environment. So that will also become one of the focus points of any solution that we think about in this 3.1 to 3.45 gigahertz spectrum range. Thanks.
Okay. And really the group behind this webinar is the forum's new highly dynamic spectrum sharing group, which you two chair. Can you tell us a little bit about the group and why people should join it and participate and what they'll get out of that?
I think the main idea behind joining this group would be to learn about the different techniques, the challenges, and also how your organizations can contribute to the development of this new technology, and with the greater goal of moving the knowledge base of the country to move forward. This is a unique opportunity. It is not this any of these efforts have not been tried anywhere in the world. This will be the very first wave of spectrum sharing at high speed at this particular spectrum range, and you'll get great opportunity for the organizations to contribute to this effort. Andy,
Yeah, what we're trying to do is leverage the knowledge that the WIN Forum has in the domain of spectrum sharing, specifically in the Citizens Broadband Radio Service, or CBRS, and in addition to the 6 gigahertz automated frequency coordination system that we help develop the standards for. So what we're trying to do is, recognize that we and our members and those of us who help develop standards have a lot of experience in developing spectrum sharing standards and modes of operation. But those we need to use as a baseline and go from those towards systems that are much more dynamic, so they can, as Amit was saying earlier, they can respond to systems much faster and turn off or reconfigure more quickly in order to avoid interference. And also deal with a greater number of systems. In CBRS, we really are dealing with one or two major systems, radar systems. In the lower 3 gigahertz, there are dozens of different systems, radars, non-radars, airborne, ground-based, shipborne. It's a much greater spread. And so we need to kind of leverage whatever we've done before, but make it so it's much more dynamic and much more able to coexist with a larger variety of systems. And that's what the HDSS group is working on doing.
Okay, great. I know you'll be talking about this more during the webinar, and we'll give everybody information on how to join and how to participate. And I'm very much looking forward to the webinar. I hope to see everybody there January 30th. And if you're listening to this or watching this after, I will have the link to the webinar recording in the notes below. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for the information. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks a bit. See you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.